Hello and welcome to the TLC Designs YouTube channel. My name is Lynn, or LV Handcrafted, here on YouTube, and today I am making this bridge fold card featuring snowbots, which they are just so adorable. I love this stamp set. And so I'm going to start off by cutting the card base. So for this card base, we're going to need a couple of different elements. This first panel here, I'm cutting to 5 inches tall by 10 inches wide. This is going to fold down to a 5x7 card. So I want to put my first score line at 1 3/4, my next one at 3 1/4, and then I'm going to turn my paper around 180 degrees and make those same score lines, 1 3/4, 3 1/4. And in fact, on that 3 1/4 score line, I'm going to score it again, but this time from the back. And that is because I like to fold all of my score lines as mountain folds. But when I need a valley fold, I just score it from the back. So this next piece here is cut to 7 inches. Now I did cut this to 2 inches tall, but in fact later I changed that to 1 3/4. And then this final panel is 4.5 by this one ends up being 1.5. It just needs to be equal to or shorter than the 7-inch wide panel. So this is going to be our bridge piece, one of our bridge pieces that is actually going to be a pop-up stand. So this was that largest piece, the first piece we cut, the one that's 10 by 5. And you just want to fold your 1 3/4 inch line as a mountain fold, fold your 3 1/4 inch line as a valley fold, and you're going to end up with something that looks a little bit like this. When it's folded down, it will fit into a 5x7 envelope, and when it's put on display, it will have this shape. I'm going to add this pop-up bridge stand, so that will go in the center there. And then that 7-inch wide panel that we cut is going to go in the very front. So today I'm using, as I mentioned, 2 sets. I think I mentioned the Snowbot Friends. The other set that I'm using is a die set called Aztec Circles. And that's a really fun one because it's got some really nice scene building elements to it. I'm actually not using the circles at all. I'm using it for the scene building elements. And I've got the Snowy Skies pattern papers. So these are wonderful. This panel I originally cut to 3.5 inches wide by 5 inches tall, but you saw me just trim like a smidge off. A couple times actually, just because I like to just take little bits off. My guillotine is wonderful at just trimming a fly's eyelash off when I need to. I think it ended up being maybe close to a 1/16 of an inch in total that I trimmed off. And the reason why is because this panel actually sits between 2 score lines, and I want to make sure that it doesn't cross over those score lines. And so that's why I trimmed a bit off. This is our bridge piece, so I attach one of those glue tabs, and then I fold the card down so that the other glue tab naturally finds its correct position. And then here I've got my 7-inch wide by 1 3/4 inch tall panel. And when you attach this panel, you want to be sure only to put adhesive on those the frontmost sections, because that way your card can still open up and have all of that lovely dimension. And so then I've cut my pattern papers. I didn't want any white border to show. So I've cut all of my pattern papers so that they fill the entire stretch of each of the panels that I've glued them on. So that bottommost panel, the pattern paper was cut to 7 inches wide by 1 3/4 inches tall. And then on those front 2 panels, it's 1 3/4 inches wide by 3 1/4 inch tall. Then for my fun little snowbots, I'm attaching them to some strong heavyweight acetate. You can actually, what I'm using here is actually clear plastic packaging, and it's nice and sturdy. It stands nice and tall, so it's great as pop-up stands here. And I am just using some red line tape to attach both my die cuts to the front, and also to attach the acetate stands to that bridge piece that we added to the center of our card. And these these little snowbots, they're just so darling. I really, really love them. I think they're cute, but at the same time, if you're making a card for somebody who's not into super cutesy, I think they still work for somebody who's not into like little critters. So I feel like everyone can really appreciate these little snowbots. The clouds that I am attaching here, they're from that Aztec Sunshine Circle die set, and there's actually 3 different sizes of clouds, and the clouds are really wonderful. They have that nice stitched border design, so really, really fantastic. And one thing that I really like to do is run my die cuts straight off the edge. So I just cut some of those cloud die cuts in half, and I've attached those to the edges of my card, and then for 2 of my clouds, I've attached them so that they're hanging off of the fold. And that just gives a little bit more dimension, and it makes it seem a little bit more organic because it's not so strictly confined to your panels. The Snowbot Friends die set also includes a couple of really cute birds. I did color both of them up, but I ended up only using one. I tried to find a spot for the second one, but I don't typically like to do just 2 of something. So when I put the second bird on, or at least auditioned it in a couple of different spots, for some reason, I felt like if I was going to do 2, I really should do a third bird. But maybe that's just me. I didn't go to the design school, so I don't know all of the rules and recommendations for a good composition, but that's just my gut instinct. And so I just stuck with the 1 bird. But you'll see later, I do try to find a way to use that second bird I colored. And I did start to hand cut my sentiment, but I really can't cut a straight line, especially one as long as this sentiment panel. So I did end up taking it to my trimmer and trimming this up so that it's nice and even and straight. And I want to make sure that it is legible and that it stands off a little bit from the pattern paper, because this whole card is very light. I think it's just that purple bot that I've colored in that has a lot of saturated color, but otherwise everything is actually pretty light. And so that white of my sentiment banner I felt was getting a little bit lost in the pattern paper. So whenever I feel that's the case, I just add a little bit of solid color cardstock behind it, and that helps to offset that. And so that basically wraps up my bridge fold card, which also happens to be a fun pop-up card. And I love how easy and fast this card is to put together. And it's a really good one to make during the holidays because it's so nice to put on display as well. So whoever you give it to, I feel like they can really pop it right onto their mantle and have it to look at the rest of the holiday season. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.